JD Vance is the favorite to win the betting odds for the Republican nomination in 2028 at 46% chance to Vivek's 9% and Donald Trump himself at 8% due to a possibility of a 22nd Amendment loophole that could allow him to run for a third time. The Democratic nomination, on the other hand, is more split up, with Gavin Newsom at 16%, Josh Shapiro at 12%, and Gretchen Whitmer at 8%, with even Kamala being at 7%, as she's actually gotten in the high 40s in some latest 2028 Democratic primary polling. Today, we're going to be exploring a Gavin Newsom / JD Vance matchup for the 2028 election. Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with On Point Politics, one of your most accurate forecasting analysis on presidential elections. Make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this. I managed to get every single state correct except Minnesota and New Hampshire in the 2024 presidential election, and even called some of the margins in Florida, Texas, New Jersey, California, and many other states. Going into this cycle, though, we see Utah, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, all of Nebraska, except that 2nd congressional district, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana, and West Virginia, all be in the safe Republican column, alongside South Carolina, which in this hypothetical scenario would be about a 19.6 percentage point win, which is just about almost 2 points more than what Donald Trump won it by back in the 2024 presidential election, with JD Vance improving on Trump's margin. The state of Utah was a 21.6 percentage point win in the last election. It's basically about the same in this forecast due to JD Vance significantly overperforming in the national popular vote in this election cycle. Looking at Kansas, JD Vance is ahead by 18 points, and we see here that Donald Trump won the state by 16. So overall, JD Vance does improve on Donald Trump's margins, with even Ohio and Iowa being 16-point victories in this cycle, with Texas and Florida being even larger wins than what they were in 2024. Somebody like a JD Vance, in my opinion, would do very well against Gavin Newsom, potentially win the popular vote by 3 to 4 points. And so that is why you see such lopsided victories in some of these big states. Texas was about a 13.7 percentage point win. So now with it being a 14 win, it's about the same margin as it was back in 2024. But Trump only won the state of Florida by 13.1% here. And so JD Vance does improve slightly more. He probably flips Palm Beach County in this election cycle, and even probably goes ahead and makes Orlando a little bit closer than expected. So that gives him 215 safe electoral votes alongside Alaska with a 16-point margin, with Maine's 1st congressional district, or the 2nd congressional district, being a 15-point win in this scenario. So definitely a much more lopsided election with somebody like a JD Vance on the ticket. Gavin Newsom, I believe, would be an even weaker candidate than current Kamala Harris, in my opinion. He is male, so he wouldn't have that whole first woman president Democratic slogan kind of backing him. He would code as very coastal elite, and I actually think he would do very bad with black voters. Meanwhile, JD, I actually think, does significantly better with college whites and black voters than most Republicans have in the last election. So as of right now, I think JD Vance would expand the coalition from the previous election. But obviously there's still so much subject to change. California in this election, I think, is only about a 17-point win. This would be a 3-point decrease from Harris's 20-point win. More than likely, JD Vance would improve in Imperial County. He would improve in Lake. He would improve in many of these places, and even make Orange County probably a Republican stronghold going into the 2028 election, basically propelling the state of California to the right. Oregon and Washington would still be safe at +10, but they would definitely be closer. Harris won Washington by 18 and Oregon by 14. Here you only see Washington a 13-point win to Oregon's 10-point win. So they'd still be significantly closer in this timeline. We also see that a place like Vermont and Massachusetts, Maryland, those are still going to be big wins for the Democrats in Connecticut. They would still be there, but you're going to see them significantly closer than the last couple of cycles, with Gavin only being at 108, alongside Hawaii being at 17 points for Gavin Newsom. So he's just at 112 safe electoral college votes, Maine's first congressional district being there as well. So 113 safe electoral votes for Gavin to JD's 219. For JD's likely states, Georgia and North Carolina. Well, probably not Georgia, but I know that North Carolina for a fact would be in this column. I think JD would improve from Trump's 3.4 percentage point win, or 3.2, I should say now. He'd improve from this margin here. He'd do a lot better in the eastern part of the state, and as well as the western part of the state. Maybe some areas in the center would probably stagnate, but I think he'd perform extremely well in eastern North Carolina, which would propel him in a really good margin in the state of North Carolina. Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, these would all be in the likely column, with Wisconsin and Michigan barely being in the likely column for JD Vance. Somebody like a JD Vance would perform even better in the Rust Belt. This is his area. He was born in Kentucky. He moved to the state of Ohio. He is from the Rust Belt and knows how to appeal to these union kind of voters a lot better, and some of these white working class voters better than somebody like a Donald Trump would against Kamala Harris. And Gavin Newsom's going to be extraordinarily weak in the Rust Belt, especially being the governor of California is definitely going to leave a bad taste in a lot of voters' mouths against somebody like a JD Vance. Arizona and Nevada would also be likely margins of victory in this election. Arizona 6.1, so he does improve from the last election. I actually think JD may do slightly worse in Maricopa, but make up for it in the other parts of the state. In Nevada, he actually wins the state of Nevada by roughly 7.2%. So Clark County would have almost definitely flipped in this scenario. Vance is probably winning Clark by like about 3 points in this scenario, wins Washoe by like about 2. So that's kind of roughly what we're seeing as of right now in this election cycle. So Nevada is one of his stronger swing states looking at this right now. Actually, it is his best swing state. The only state you could see here that he doesn't win by 5 points is Georgia, so that's going to be there. Colorado is interesting, just a 7-point win for Gavin, so very, very low margin of win here. I mean, Kamala Harris won it by 11 points in the last election. Illinois was only a 10.7 percentage point win. We see here an 8-point victory once again for Gavin in the state of Illinois. And looking at New York, we see a 9-point victory for Gavin, alongside Rhode Island 9.9 and Delaware 9.7. So those will be going in the likely Democrat column as of right now, just giving him 177 likely and safe electoral college votes. Georgia is in the lean Republican column for Vance. Even though Vance is winning the popular vote by like 3 to 4 points, I think Georgia more than likely starts trending to the left due to those Atlanta suburbs. JD would make it up for it in the rural parts of the state and would make some gains in the Atlanta suburbs, but not quite enough to push the state into the likely column. We see here that the state of New Mexico would only be a 2-point win. Republicans gained in voter registration by like 2 to 1 in the state of New Mexico last month. And so that's definitely a sign that the state is moving to the right. And with the Sun Belt being super Republican, it would not be a surprise to see New Mexico get more competitive as Hispanics continue to move to the right of the nation. And looking at Virginia, another state, we see this one is very interesting. Just a 2-point race here. JD Vance would do better with black voters in this election cycle. And that's why I could see him winning or losing the state of Virginia by just 2 points. New Jersey is just a 3.7 percentage point win for Gavin. It would be closer than what it was in 2024 when Harris only won the state by 5.9 percentage points. So that's about what you would see right there in the state of New Jersey. And New Hampshire and Maine. Maine would get a lot closer because I think somebody like a Vance would be able to appeal to those voters a lot more than Donald Trump would. But New Hampshire doesn't really move that much to the right at all. Harris won it by 2.8% here. It was only a 2.2 percentage point win. So not really a large shift as of right now. And the last state alongside Nebraska second, which is currently just a 1.4 percentage point win. The last state, Minnesota, is a tilt margin in this forecast. Very, very close. More than likely, JD would improve in Hennepin and as well as in the rural areas, but it may not be enough
to win the state at large. And so J.D. Vance would hold 312 electoral college votes to Gavin Newsom's 226 electoral college votes, the same electoral college votes that Donald Trump won against Kamala Harris. Although, a few pointers, this is still very early. A lot of things could change, and no candidate, no map has ever stayed the same for 2 cycles in a row. We've never gotten the exact same map 2 cycles in a row. So more than likely, either J.D. Vance is going to underperform Donald Trump or overperform Donald Trump. It would be historically unprecedented if he actually ended up getting the same electoral map that Donald Trump did. If you guys did enjoy this video, make sure to hit the like button and to subscribe if you want more content just like this, and I will see you guys in the next video.